Well, everybody knows the Zimbabwean voice now, so that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, that one. One of unity, one of togetherness, one of peace, one of love, you know. That's the way forward. Oga, Oga.
Alex, thank you so much for meeting me. I know it's kind of evening your time right now, so appreciate your time, man. How are you
doing? Good. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks so much for having me. Really happy to be on your podcast. And yeah, all good here, just in a chilly Harare.
I heard it was, not to talk about the weather, but I heard it was like something crazy, like 4 degrees.
It's been pretty weird. It feels like I've been back in the UK. Not like Zimbabwe weather that we used to.
Geez. Well, I guess some variety every now and again is good. But for everyone listening, you're in Harare right now, and I know, of course, introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are and where you currently work right now. Yeah.
Sure. So my name is Alex Breitenstein, and I'm currently working at Bereka. So we're a new startup, and I am the managing director.
Terrific. And I just wanted to talk about Bereka and what does Bereka do? Of course, I know, but just everyone's listening, then I'm going to go into a little bit more depth around it.
Sure. So we've partnered with Mukuru.com, and we are offering a last mile delivery service. So I guess you could think of us as us bringing the booth to you. So instead of someone having to go to a booth and queue, wait, to collect their money, we will speed up that process and bring that to your door for a small delivery fee.
That's really cool. I was telling you when we had a first conversation last week, I used to run a small manufacturing business out in Chitungwiza in 2017 for 2 years anyway. And I used to bank with EcoBank, and there was like my local branch was EcoBank Chitungwiza, and they had like a small little shopping center there, and there were a bunch of wholesalers around there. Anyway, I would go through because there was like 2 lines. And there was the line where I just go, and that was when you could just withdraw cash. It was crazy. You withdraw like $5,000 or whatever, however much I needed. That was when you could actually withdraw that much. Anyway, it was crazy. I'm like, how? Looking back, I was like, how could you take 10,000? It was crazy of how much you could just withdraw at that time. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that when I would come, there would always be a queue of people in the Mukuru, specifically in the EcoBank. There was always a queue of people who were queuing to get cash at Mukuru, like literally go out there, and every time I'll go every week, and it would happen all the time. So when you told me about some of the work you guys are doing, which is like basically, if I'm correct, it's so that people have to avoid that queue. Is that correct? Walk me through it, like so people make sense. So it makes sense for me.
Yeah. So I think, obviously Mukuru has gotten a lot better with how they're handling their queues, and things are starting to move a lot quicker. But what we're just trying to provide is, in quite a few scenarios, you get people who perhaps don't have time in their day to go to a booth and collect money, or, recently we served some people in hospital, which was really cool in Chitungwiza. We served some elderly ladies where they're in hospital, they can't get to a booth. So that's where, Bereka really comes in, and it's quite an awesome service that we can offer. So, we took them their money in hospital, and then they can use it as they need and so require. But yeah, so it's just kind of offering workers, perhaps, if you're at work and you can't take the time to get to a booth, or you just want that convenience factor, similar to how it is in the first world with Uber Eats. If you want food to your doorstep, etc., we're trying to offer that with Mukuru Cash, which is pretty cool.
It's incredibly cool. And I was reading this statistic the other day, which talked about, I was watching like a panel, and it was starting to see, we're talking to some students about e-commerce in terms of how the previous generation of entrepreneurs has built like a great foundation in terms of technology and fiber and data. But then of course it's like, look, they won't be here forever. So it's about people who can build things on top of the platform of technology that has been built already. And then people said, what do you think is coming next? Like, what do you feel bullish about? And he was like, a little kid talking about, he's like, e-commerce is the next thing. And then the stat, I don't know, I need to, of course, fact check it and see where the statistic came from. But the statistic he used was 3% of people on the African continent have bought something online.
Wow.
Like actual, like 3%. That was the stat that he said, 3%. And then he said 80% of the 3% are in South Africa.
Wow.
That's it. That like blew, and of course, I have to like, don't quote me on that, but that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
No, I was like, goodness. So of course, but what we all can say for sure is that e-commerce is there's so much to come from it, you know? So I kind of started to think of the work that you guys are doing, and obviously the challenge becomes like, but in countries like America or Britain or wherever, where there's a lot of disposable income, it's not as easy, but e-commerce can kind of flourish. So when I saw some of the work that you guys were doing, it was like, wow, okay, some people earn like $200 a month, you know, truthfully.
Yeah.
And if you can build trust, because when you're earning that much money, it's about like every cent matters. Literally every cent matters. So what you guys are doing, which is very powerful, I'm sure you realize this, but like, if I can trust you with $2 or $1, and we build that trust consistently over a good period of time, that's a phenomenal way to build a great business, not just like in Zimbabwe, but I think in many African countries at large. So that's how I think the work you guys are doing is so big. But what's your take on, you know, I don't know if on my little spiel, are you quite bullish on that?
I think it's fascinating. I think in terms of Africa, obviously, we've got opportunity to leapfrog. And we see that happening quite a lot with, you know, the tech space. I think Zimbabwe, the e-commerce space is very behind. Obviously, I think there's a few inhibitors there, mainly, you know, how you pay online, etc. But I think for Bereka, it becomes quite interesting if there is opportunities down the line. Once we build that trust with our customer, with you know, hey, I've got your money here from Mukuru, but would you like to potentially put some, you know, oil on the back of our motorbike, and we can deliver you oil as well. And then obviously that benefits the end consumer because they're getting, you know, their Mukuru cash, a bit of oil or groceries, whatever it may be. So I think e-commerce is fascinating. I still think there's a few barriers in Zim to get to kind of where we need to be. But I certainly think it's not far around the corner where it's probably going to completely take off.
On the last point, you talked about like barriers, but you to kind of overcome. What's nice, I think, with your business is that it's kind of like Zim offers a nice testing. Offers no African country is the same, but our, of course, economic conditions are very challenging. So, so if you can test and iterate and build something that's relevant there, that provides a great platform to, of course, you know, build businesses in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa as well. What have you always been a person that's been like bullish on solutions or Zimbabwean solutions or African solutions?
I would say so, yes. I've always been, so my background is I did a degree in geology, but I kind of never thought I'd go down that route. I just did it because I found it fascinating. But since I've been a young kid, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I remember from being a youngster, you know, kind of trying to sell perfume that I tried to make with my mom's lavender plants back in the day on the side of the road. So I've always been very big on solutions to Zimbabwe. I think there's lots of issues here that, you know, you can bring first world issues and first world solutions and solve problems here. I think there's big opportunity in Zim, and it's really cool to try and get stuck into it.
Absolutely. Well, speaking on that, let's go back to your childhood. Where were you born? Did you have any siblings? Yeah, what was your upbringing like?
Sure. So I was born I grew up in Chigutu. And then, so my dad runs Dodd Hill Farm. I don't know if you've probably ever stopped on the way. There's Dodd Hill Nursery there as you go on the Fullerwood Road. And so I've got an older brother, and he's managing Dodd Hill there, and then I've also got an older sister who's also involved in the family business. So so I grew up there for a while, and then moved into town and went to St. John's. I know you're a St. John's boy as well.
Yes. Junior school, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So your parents were farmers, and you I think you mentioned you went to Brighton when you were in.
Yes. Yes. I did my first grade 1 to 3 at Brighton. Yeah.
And did you guys move to Harare, or did you kind of do this thing where you kind of came back and forth from
So
Tegu to
we
Harare?
so we moved to Harare. Yeah.
Got you, got you. That's really cool. And you talked about how when you were young, you're always very creative and entrepreneurial. Lavender. So, what were some of the projects that you mentioned the perfume? What were some of the projects you worked on when you were a kid? Just out of curiosity.
So lavender, the lavender perfume. Then there was kind of the little tractors that you buy. When you're driving along the road and you see those really
Yeah.
talented people that build those trucks
Yes,
with
of course.
tractors with wire and wood and stuff.
Yes,
So
of course.
try to sell those as well. Little things like that. Nothing really worked, to be completely honest.
It was good.
And
Good.
yeah, and then more recently, I also tried to do with a friend of mine just as a side project. We tried to make bio briquettes just out of
Industrial waste.
industrial waste, just to see if we could try stop deforestation and stuff. But we couldn't really get the mixture correct, to be completely honest. And then yeah, I had other work as well that I kind of needed to focus on a bit more. But that was also just a fun little side project that we tried as well.
It's a great project. I also looked into that a while ago. But so my parents are in the waste business, so
Okay.
they dispose of industrial and domestic, like they have trucks and stuff. So I was always like, wait, surely there's a way we can use this waste into something that's useful and not just dispose it to city council every. But anyway, that's a different. We can talk about it a bit later. But well, I'm glad you. And did your parents always encourage like your entrepreneurial spirit, if I can call it that?
Yeah, so my parents have always been super supportive. My dad in particular is always just kind of like go for it. I had so I was working abroad, and when I came back, I tried to bring a solution that I was involved in Singapore, and we tried to bring it to Zim in the banking space. And yeah, he's always been like, go for it, and if you're gonna fail fast, which is something that happened there that didn't work, but it's probably some of the best lessons. I'm glad I learned those lessons before I started Bereka, because I think to just expect that you're gonna, some people do, but to expect you're just gonna succeed straight away was probably a bit naive on my part, and I've learned quite a few important lessons, business lessons and life lessons as well.
Good. The journey into entrepreneurship, I feel like it happens with, there are no singular rules to this thing, but I feel like it happens with like baby steps. You have to feel almost comfortable creating small, even from like a kid's age, like, can I create a small, maybe try sell perfume? Those are good seeds to fan at a very young age, because it gives you confidence to like grow up and try things the older you get. But when you went to university, I was doing some of my digging, and I think you went to school after high school. Did you go to New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Why?
Yes,
why there? Why there? Out of curiosity.
So I was fortunate to have the opportunity to go to either South Africa or New Zealand. And for me, I kind of just wanted something very different. South Africa is obviously pretty similar to Zim in a lot of ways. A lot of my friends were going to South Africa, and I guess I kind of wanted to break away from the norm and just to experience something completely new. So yeah, I had a great 3 years in New Zealand. It was incredible, lots of fun.
And was it one? I'm sure it must have been incredibly different. I've never been. I have a cousin that's there, but I've heard it's beautiful. And what did you want to study? You said you did geology, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So yeah, I did a degree in geology, and also then I did some business papers on the side as well. So I got a minor in management, and I did quite a few economics papers as well. Really enjoyed economics at uni. But then when I chose my major, I just decided to go with geology because I found it quite fascinating. Yeah, really interesting and challenging. And it was something that I'd never really learned about, or I had this fascination with driving around, particularly in New Zealand, when you go in there and you're looking at this beautiful landscape, experiencing an earthquake, that kind of stuff, and you're wondering what's actually happening. So it was quite cool to learn about it.
That's really cool. That's cool. I think it's also like something that's indicative now. Not that to say that everyone who comes from areas that are rich in geology have that fascination, but especially we're coming from where we come from. there's so many people that know a geologist because it's very rich in beauty and industrial minerals, right? So were you one of those kids where your parents would obviously take you out to like, would they ever take you out to, I don't know, Matopos or other parts of the country to get a feel of what those, the rocks and stuff like that?
Well, not necessarily from a geological standpoint, but
Right.
we've been,
That's right.
We really enjoy the outdoors. So growing up, we would go spend a lot of the time in the bush or, be outside. So that was definitely a big part of my childhood growing up, was always being outside. And that probably, fueled my curiosity, I guess.
But it's one thing to say, I always think like you should follow your curiosity. I think even if it seems random, it's good. It has like a reason why it's taking you there. But it's one thing to like, sometimes there's always that, that feeling when you finish your undergraduate degree, if you do one, especially abroad, it's like, do I stay? Or what's the next thing,
The next steps. Yeah.
What was your thinking when you wanted to figure out? Because some people say there's always this hunch to say, I want to come back home. Or some people want to just stay and say, I made it out. I want to stay. Exactly. Yeah. What was your thinking?
So I knew I wanted to get some first world experience and be out of Zimbabwe for a while. So post New Zealand, well, I was actually currently still in my degree. I had one more semester to go back to, and I visited my brother in London. He was working there, and I spent 2 weeks with him, and I was sold on London after that. So as soon as I finished my degree, literally the day after my exams, I was on the plane over to London. And in London, I got a graduate job in the financial services space. So the company I worked for was called JDX. I think they've just rebranded to Delta Capital or something like that. They were pretty fascinating. They don't want people with the same degree. They try to find people
diversity.
Yeah, exactly. So you all think out the box and you're not thinking the same way.
Different perspectives.
So that was really cool. So I went from geology into financial services, which was a big shift, but I enjoyed the corporate. I enjoyed it to an extent, getting into a corporate and learning about
the London hustle, right.
Yeah. But then that faded after a couple of years, and I was like, no, I don't want to.
It's shiny.
It is
shiny. I don't blame you, especially like, I don't know, like this time of the year, London in the summer, there are very few places in the world that are as shiny as London in the summer when the sun is out and there's Wimbledon and oh my goodness.
I think it's the best place in the world.
It's the best place in the world. Fact. This is the best. Obviously, when the sun goes away, it's not as glamorous. But in the summer, everyone's happy. It's just a different world. So I don't blame you for that. But as you say, like for me, my thing for that, I wanted to live in Johannesburg. That was like the thing.
Oh.
So I got to be in Johannesburg. But of course, every big city, sometimes after, at least for me, after a while, the older you get, the allure fades off. Like it's not as shiny as it more when it was to you realize, oh, okay, is this really it? Until I'm 60, like in this big engine, just stuck in your 9 to 5 kind of 9 to 5. You can't. This is it until I'm 60. God forbid. Exactly. This can't be it. Do you have a similar sentiments when you're there after a couple of years?
Absolutely. I remember being stuck on the Northern Line in London quite a few times where you jam packed like
just in the sardines in the thing.
And I remember being on there with some older people, commuting to work as well. And I was like, I don't want to do this when I'm 50, 60. I don't want to be jam packed. Yeah, still in the rat race. Obviously, the money side, I'm sure if you as you work your way up, it's great. But
yes,
there's a lot more to life than the money, right?
Completely. You even take less money, but for quality of life is the ultimate thing you're trying to get to. And that's one of the things, if one is fortunate enough to, if one works hard and has certain privileges, I think Southern Africa offers a great quality of life. But it's one thing to have that realization and then to say, okay, in fact, before I even get there, what are some of the things that, like, because you wanted to be exposed to the one thing about working like the developed world is that you see a whole range of different things that you might not have been exposed to otherwise. So what were some of the projects that you worked on that kind of like got your juices flowing mentally to be like, okay, I like this, I like that? Because obviously Bereka wasn't there, but there were things that you were seeing that were adding value to you,
So I think I can pinpoint one project that I found quite fascinating. I got sent with my job to Singapore, and we were involved in a national utility KYC project. So that was overseen by the regulator in Singapore. And I was thrown into the deep end, where I was, kind of an account manager for two banks and then managing a small team in Singapore. And that was, it was pretty high intensity, but I learned a lot there from that. And I really enjoyed the buzz of it and the hustle and, being thrown these challenges and trying to come up with solutions. I worked with a really awesome lady, that she always would find solutions to problems. And I enjoyed working with her, like, picking her brain, finding ideas. So that was really cool. And that was trying to streamline how banks onboard clients.
What was her name? Just so she, when she hears that, she knows that she was instrumental.
so her name is Josie cool. Williams. Well, now, she's married, but Josie.
Awesome. Cool. Now, just so she knows that she was instrumental.
Shout out to Josie. Yeah.
Cool. So she's someone that I've met people like this before, who problems come and they don't panic.
No, she was remarkable. I remember. On one particular project I worked with her, she was managing like 60 people, and it was absolute chaos. And just watching how she managed that whole thing was really cool. Which I think is what you have to learn quite quickly when you start getting into your own business. It's always fire.
Fire is everywhere. It's fire everywhere.
And how you manage that, what your reaction is. Things are definitely going to go wrong, but it's how, if you can try. I think it's something that comes with age. So I'm probably commenting when I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But I look at my dad and how he reacts to problems, and then like how my brother or I react to problems, and it's very different. And I think that's a maturity thing that comes with age. But some people have it younger, like Josie.
For sure. So you guys are both working out on this project in Singapore, in this KYC gig, and you say, okay, this is stimulating. It's really fueling my intellect. And then what happened with that project?
So it was a 3-month long project, and then that came to an end. And then after that, it kind of became business as usual again. And then I think I came to the end of my road there, where I needed something different. I needed to be a bit more stimulated. So so I resigned, and that's when I decided to move back to Zimbabwe.
Okay, here's the thing. I like to look at like waves. When I went to high school I told you before when you spoke last week, I went to high school in South Africa, and it's quite scary to watch, like, I don't know. I was living in Joburg for 5 years before this, and I like to look at like trends or like the movies. I'm like, okay, I've seen this certain parts in certain movies happen, and the movie I grew up seeing is when everyone was like going to London or flying abroad. And when I was in high school, like, Zimbabweans, as you said, we've had a culture of either you stay if you're lucky and fortunate enough, you go abroad. I was one of 5 of us that went abroad who were lucky enough to do so. Everyone wasn't going to UCT, Rhodes, Stellenbosch normally, which is good. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually better. Now, it's like almost half of my matric year is now in London, or it's crazy. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's pretty like staggering to say, whoa, in South Africa that never used to happen. Now I was like, geez, that's scary. But the point I'm trying to make is that the wave is going that way. When you said, no, I want to go back, did some of your friends say, geez, like, Alex, what the hell, man? Like, this is not the wave. This is not what we're doing right now. The trend is to come.
I'm sure there were lots of them judging my decision, but to be honest, I was fortunate to have quite a few mates still back in Zim as well. So they were obviously happy to see me. The ones in London probably thought I was a bit crazy coming back. But they'll probably be back in a few years. Zim's got this allure to it that pulls everyone.
Tell me about them. Literally podcasting. You can't get away. You can't shake it off. It off. But then, did you know what you wanted to do? Like, did you know what you wanted to do, or did you just, you know what I mean? Because you had to, what was your?
I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. No, but I chatted to a couple people, and I thought maybe there was a few ideas that we could try, delve into and see if something would come of it. And that's when I tried to go for that KYC utility in Zimbabwe. that we tried to start, I think 2 years ago. And that just, it was, like I mentioned earlier, that was quite a big learning curve for me.
So you've come back to Zim. Oh, that's actually, sorry, I'm just having a bit of trauma because I just did the same thing while I was in Scotland, moved back to Zim, on to start a business, did that for 2 years, and you learn a lot, learn a hell of a lot. You get dealt, it's just hectic. It's hectic.
Yeah.
Of course, my project after 2 years failed. But I look back and I was like, geez, that was the best baptism of fire I could have ever asked for at a young age.
Absolutely.
So like entrepreneurship it's cool, but it's not like it's not sexy. Don't do it for the sex appeal.
It's certainly not. I think maybe, hopefully down the line it is.
Down the line, but not in the
beginning. Majority of the time, it's certainly not sexy.
It's hard. It's hard work.
The grind.
And there are fires, and also in a macroeconomic environment like Zimbabwe, it's just like it's unpredictable. That's the word. It's unpredictable. Like every day is different.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of my. Well, I love the unpredictability of the work side, but then that's something that does frighten me as well as the unpredictability of the macro environment in Zim. But then in saying that, I think there's that saying, in chaos lies opportunity. So
it's funny. I actually wrote that. I wrote that down when I was doing my interview prep. Because when I was working, no, honestly, because when I was going through my first entrepreneurial endeavor, like running a small team and having a factory, all of these things, there was a gentleman called Callum who started a company called Pro Brands, who was really like just giving me like good mentorship and advice throughout the process. And I would go to his like factory and see where they started, to see where they are now, and to see their reach, and see it was just like staggering. Of course, I had a small factory. They had much bigger factories with much higher volumes, and there were always problems. And he's like, he just learned how to deal emotionally with problems. And his mindset was always like, there's a lot of chaos all the time, but I'm always looking for I'm always looking for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And that was the thing he said to me, like, always look for the opportunity. And initially, I was like, do you ever get, I don't know if I should say that, but anyway, the point I was like, do you ever get like nervous? I do. Sometimes I get like overwhelmed, but eventually we find the opportunity and then we capitalize with it. And then I've seen that in this career time and time again. So that was like a powerful thing. So in the same light, I've seen many people who, in that same environment, who somehow they have the cool enough here to breathe and find like the eye in find the opportunity in the chaos. So
absolutely. Yeah, so I think some people that I work with at Bereka and Mukuru, they those eternal optimists, which is really refreshing to work with. Always finding, solutions to problems and not finding the issues, which is an interesting mindset to have, right? Because it's quite easy to be pessimistic or negative over something, but when you work with people who find the optimistic, solution to issues, it's really cool.
Yeah,
that's what also makes a great entrepreneur is someone who can, find those solutions instead of
solutions. Problems. Yeah, or know how to break down a problem, distill it. How can I break it down into pieces and then eat it for breakfast? Like I was like, it's seeing it happen in real time. Is like, oh, problems are just things we eat. Like obviously it sounds sexy, but it's hectic at the time. But I've seen people who are good at handling problems and then spinning them into even more profitable things. So you've come back, you've figured out the first thing hasn't really worked out. You've been dealt a tough hand by life. Did you ever say, maybe I should, that London job's not looking too bad right now. Maybe I should go back to London or do a postgrad or leave?
It obviously crosses your mind, or crossed my mind a couple of times, but then this Bereka opportunity kind of presented itself, and I thought it was something that I couldn't let go, let by. So that was short-lived, I think.
That's good. That's good.
I guess that's always a fallback option if things really don't work, but hopefully that's not the case.
I know failure is always the thing that's just always looking at you in the room, but you have to just like it's part of the thing, but hopefully not. Fingers crossed. So what do you? I want to talk about like the idea of like we talked about problem and like now solutions. maybe how can I preface this part I'm trying to say? Maybe I'll use an example. There is a company called Lyft in the United States. Lyft is like Uber, so Lyft. Lyft is in the United States. Yeah, they've got like a little pink mustache. They have a little pink mustache on like their cars. Very cool. Lyft used to be called Zimride. So I was doing the research with Lyft. Lyft used to be called Zimride. The story is one of their founders is like I forget his name, but this is you can fact check me. You can literally check on this is fact. The guy was the co-founders were traveling through Zimbabwe, and then they were just thinking like, man, California has this really big problem where 80% of seats are empty on the highway, but traffic is crazy. Everyone has like single seated, but of course, how can we think of this ride sharing thing? They're always thinking about this big problem called ride sharing. And then they came to Zim, and then they saw, like, you know how we have like those, what do you call them, shika or combis, where people are like, exactly, people like stop in the middle of the road. Yes, bro, look, those that cut you off and they're so annoying. They saw that and they saw that they're like, oh my God, this is incredible. So they moved back to, this is incredible. They moved back to California. They go back to California, started a company called Zimride. After 10 or 5 or 6 or so years, Zimride rebrands into Lyft. Lyft is now a $1 billion company with a market cap of $3 billion.
Wow.
So the point I'm trying to say is that we talk about problems or solutions, and that we're both in the same environment, seeing the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we talk about like how bringing first world to third world, but sometimes the point I'm trying to make is that like the problems that you are dealing with and trying to solve, it's also cool like to think that they aren't just for you. They can also be like leveraged everywhere.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, it's quite interesting, like this whole last mile space. I mean, it's something that hasn't, I mean, I don't know which companies, there's one company in Colombia that we follow, but it's called Rappi. They've kind of nailed it from what it appears, and they go for this hyper local model, which we're trying to emulate here. And it's fascinating how their business works there and how it's kind of Colombia and Zim or South America, quite a few similarities.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah, and also like in California having issues with public transport, all of that. Where in Zim, obviously public transport is a huge issue. So that's also, you know, something that Bereka offers is instead of paying the $1 or $2 to get the public transport to the booth, we'll bring the booth to you for $2. So it's kind of saving everyone a bit of convenience as well.
Of course. And then it's just of course the booth, but then like if I can trust you with $2 and I can trust you with other things, I can say, okay, well maybe you bring my cooking oil today.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can bring my, you know, all of the so many different things I can come, but it's about trust. What is some of the happiest moments been and some of the worst moments been? Because it's not, you know what I mean? There's a lot of great things to look forward to, but we can't be lying. We're lying to ourselves if it's all sunshine and roses.
No, absolutely. I think some of the happiest moments so far with Bereka, I mean, it's only been a month and a half really, so it's an early journey. But,
it's cool.
It's been really cool, you know, serving someone and seeing the smile on their face, particularly in Chitungwiza. I think people have never really experienced anything like this, where it's kind of first world technology to some extent coming to Africa. And when some dude rocks up at their house with their Mukuru cash, they're so shocked and mind blown, and it's such a cool, you know, it's so cool to offer that and see the smile on their face. And also serving those people in the hospital, we got messages, you know, they sent us a video back in the main office to thank us, and that was really rewarding as well. Just to see that you're making a difference as well. I mean, it's a Mukuru is a lifeline to a lot of Zimbabweans. So it's really cool to be able to add on that and help them out.
That's incredible, and that's a highlight. Low light. Do you ever have a day like? Obviously, it's early on, and maybe it's too early to say, but unless it's all sunshine.
I think there will probably be.
No, they will. No, they will. But I don't want to will them on you. They will, but you are strong enough to handle them. You're strong enough to handle them.
I mean, there's been little things here and there that have been frustrating and challenging.
Still early.
Still early. Still trying to figure out, you know, things with maybe sometimes operationally not going as smooth as planned, or maybe like a glitch here or there with the tech. But in saying that, we've got an awesome CTO who's yeah, he's really switched on. So our tech has been pretty top notch so far.
It's been good. It's been good.
It stays that way.
On the tech part itself, so you go WhatsApp. Of course, I saw on the website like some of the things.
Yeah.
WhatsApp, and I think that's probably the smartest way to engage with people, right? Because WhatsApp everyone is familiar with. So you guys just, as opposed to having an app for now, WhatsApp is kind of the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we've got plans anytime soon to go to that app type model. WhatsApp caters for majority of our needs, which is really awesome. I mean, lots of people, majority of Zimbabweans use WhatsApp. So it's a really easy way for people to come and sign up, pretty frictionless. Whereas when you're kind of asking for someone to download an app, there's a lot more issues that come with that. So you're obviously asking someone to use their data to go onto the app store. And you realize, people don't really have that extra bit of money to spend on a data bundle to download. So we're trying to make it as frictionless as possible to be able to sign up a customer. And WhatsApp is so far the best solution for that.
Why the name? Of course, Bereka in Shona means to carry, or to carry. Well, specifically, it's used in the context of carrying like a baby on the back. Who chose the name, and why did you choose that name?
So it was one of the founders that chose the name. I think he just thought it was really cool. Yeah, you know what it's like, as you said.
Yeah, of course. Like when you
to get touched on your back. We were all like that when we were kids, getting really cool.
Every African child who's born in Zimbabwe, or so that everyone gets carried on the back by someone as a child.
Exactly.
So
yeah, so that was the reason.
So good.
Carrying your Mukuru cash on the back, or your groceries, or whatever we're delivering to you.
I love it. The name is genius. So what's your? Maybe to bring us like two questions I want to ask to kind of bring us full circle. What do you envision for the company? Of course, it's still in its early stages. I think it could be honestly, a big business because there's technology as well, and the value proposition is very compelling. But what does your blue sky look like? Do you know?
Yeah, so I think we want to try and expand throughout Zimbabwe as quick as possible. So we're learning a lot with we almost throughout the whole of Harare, not just yet, but we're trying to get there. And the whole of Chitungwiza currently. But I think for me, it would be successfully rolling out to the rest of Zimbabwe this year. When I say the rest of the Zimbabwe, I mean, your big towns where your Mukuru, that would be really cool. And then I'd also like to get into delivering other things. So not being able to, not just your Mukuru cash, but if it's groceries or whatever there's a demand for. So we're still trying to figure, look at different avenues, see what people are wanting to be delivered. That's the blue sky for Zimbabwe, and then hopefully we could roll it out regionally if it's successful.
That's so exciting, and thankfully you have a lot of the data already there that can help inform what you can test, which makes it even more exciting. And Zim, Zimbabwe, where we call home, a place where we come from. Of course, you are there now. I'm abroad right now. But if it was like a book, I always end off with like this question. The Zimbabwean, like I look at Zimbabwe as like a book with many chapters. Some are positive, some are not so positive, but it's a plot. It always evolves. And right now in the public, unfortunately, like our narrative hasn't been painted in the right light. Exactly. It's not as positive as you would like for many reasons, right? But of course, there are people like yourself who are doing work to shift it for the better. But in your particular case, what does the shift in the Zimbabwean narrative look like for you? And it can be anything, what does it look like for you?
That's a good question. So, I mean, you alluded to there saying Zimbabwe's people only see the negatives, right? The negative news. You type in Zimbabwe on Google and you look at Google Images and it looks like the worst place in the world. But if when I've brought friends from overseas here, or everyone that I've spoken to that has visited Zimbabwe, they absolutely love it. Like the people, I think, are the friendliest people in the world. The nature's incredible. The outdoors, I think we've got the best climate in the world. I think there's so many positives about Zimbabwe, and I think trying to shift the narrative. It probably starts with every single one of us. I mean, Zimbabweans as a society, I think sometimes we like to be very negative when things don't necessarily need to be negative. You know, politics gets brought into everything. I think also
everything.
And I think someone's mentioned it in one of your podcasts before, but it might have been Kuda Mangwe.
Yes.
If you want to see what's wrong with Zimbabwean society, you go to a four-way stop, you know, where there's no traffic lights. And so it would be quite nice to shift that mentality where Zimbabweans are kind of looking out for each other a bit more and you know, just trying to be a bit more positive about the whole place, because it's not all. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying things aren't tough. That it is tough for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of stuff we can be very grateful for.
Absolutely, and
a lot of free stuff, the sun, the weather, you know, all of that stuff is free. That's not good. That doesn't have to be influenced by anyone. So don't let people take away the happiness there.
Can I tell you, the older I grow, I'm not like I'm 80 years old. I'm not saying that, but the older I get, I realize honestly, like the best things in life are actually free. The best things in life, like
Absolutely.
Jumping into a lake or having the sun or having your family around.
Yeah.
Having your family around.
So
those eating food, nice food, jumping into a lake, just being in the sun and having your family around. Those three things, those are free. Those are free things to enjoy. Like obviously maybe the food, of course, but in Zim, often like this, everyone's so generous. You offer those things are there in abundance.
Yeah.
And then when you're abroad, obviously you inherit you inherit new family and all of these things, but you realize like, man, like when last did I see my sister? When last did I see my mom and my dad? And you might have felt it in some way when you're in New Zealand or in London as well.
Absolutely.
So when you're on that tube and it's really gray skies and it's raining the whole day, you think like, God, this can't be it. But Alex, last question for me. How can people help you? Is it just like, you know, of course you guys are starting out, like what's the best way to be of value? Is it sending someone something via Bereka? What's the best way to be of service to the work that you guys are doing right now?
Thanks, Jimmy. So I think for us, it's just trying to get the word out there. So, you know, people that are in the diaspora that are sending money home to their loved ones, just to let you know, we can now deliver that money to your loved ones in Harare and Chitungwiza. It's a small delivery fee at the moment. It's a promotional fee of $2. So if you kind of wanted to chuck in an extra $2 on top of your remittance, that would be a great help for your family members. But just trying to, it would be great just to get the exposure. You know, give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, what we're up to. And yeah.
That's all. Alex, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's been very illuminating, and I'm very excited about. I was talking to my wife. I was like, I don't think you understand how much potential this business has, because I ordered something on Amazon. I woke up, we ordered something on Amazon. I went to gym and I was having breakfast. The thing delivered. And I said, and I still can't believe how. Obviously, that was like 2 hours. And I remember like 10 years ago, I had a friend who was living in the US, and I was like, and you're telling me you can order a pizza online on your computer. And I said, what? No ways. That's crazy. That was 10 years. I was like, no ways. Like, I'm telling you. Now, of course, you guys are, and my big worry was like, how do you get like the person that is on $100 a month? How do you serve that person? And you guys are literally doing that. And once you wax that, geez.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah. I mean, thanks so much for having me on here. It's been great chatting to you and really fun.
Absolutely. And we'll put out the word. Alex, enjoy the rest of your evening, man. Take care.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate that.
Cheers. Bye.
Oga Pandinomuka Nokuchaga uripiko Baby wacho wanani Akuyelezane iko Ona mangwanani traveling down the road, back to a time when we were strangers and apart. I had never met anyone like you, and I must confess that I had never been so jealous to feel the stress. I am so taken by you, oh baby, I'm so taken by you. Hey, Mangwanani, Oga Oga, Hani no Muka, Nokuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani agrielezane iko. Hey, hey, ona mangwa nani. Oga, oga, Bandi no muka, Nokuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani agrielezane iko. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm so taken by you, baby. I'm so taken by you, honey. I'm so taken by you. Hey, lover, I'm so taken by you. Hey, yo, envision us taking a stroll, me holding your hand, we having a chat. I'm hoping that we go out again. You seem surprised, I can see by the look in your eyes. I said let's talk about it, you say you have to decide. You've been through many men, some of them you'd rather forget. Conscious bottles of love that left you rather upset, and now you're crying. I never made to see you shed a tear. Always brought around, it's just funny, notice that I care. When I'm willing to be there, what I do, give you my all, when I do, catch you when you fall. Girl, I love you, you're my African queen, the only one I see in my sweet African dreams. Mangwanani, Oga, Oga, searching, searching, Pandi no Muka, Nokuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani agrielezane iko. Searching, searching, Mangwanani, Oga, Oga, searching, searching, Pandi no Muka, Nokuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani agrielezane iko. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every morning, 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 mambakweza. Pandi no Muka, yeah, ekseni.